I agree, it's a gift.
All right, sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to the Word Over Media presentation of Major League Baseball Sox Talk Thing.
Ryan, welcome to episode 21 of Sox Type Thing.
Now, hold on.
Yeah.
For a second. I got a 21.
I was going to say, we haven't been doing the Sox jersey numbers throughout history for our corresponding episode numbers. So I actually did a little bit of research too. So I'm curious to see who you would base this show off of. Number 21.
I got to give it, out of all the 21s I read, which was not good,
Yeah.
I'm going with George Bell.
I saw George Bell there. I was wondering if you might go with Reese McGuire, a recent number 21, the chronic masturbator. There's also Tyler Flowers, who is like one of the longer tenured number 21s on your roster, which is in your history, which is kind of crazy. I mean, he had it for about 3 years.
I got to go with the guy who owns a chain of gas stations in like the Dominican Republic or whatever. It's George Bell all the way.
All right. There was some guy named Bart Johnson in
the
70s.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at those names. It looked like, according to the White Sox Almanac, it looked like Joe Creedy wore 21 for
a year. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't either. So
Esteban Loaiza for 2 years.
Well, that was another great contract of a pitcher.
There was no one from the 05 championship team with number 20. That would have been a no-brainer, I would think. But
yeah,
alas, it goes to George Bell. Congratulations. Number 21. 21 is a pretty cool number in general, so I'm surprised there aren't more legendary White Sox. I always thought it was a cool number, probably because Roberto Clemente is number 21, which incidentally, I think his number, that number 21, will be retired one day throughout Major League Baseball, maybe someday soon, similar to Jackie Robinson's number 42. Just for the legacy of Roberto Clemente.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson Day is actually this Saturday, April 15th. So everyone will be wearing number 42. Confusing.
I won't be able to tell who anyone is.
Confusing all viewers who was who in the field, but somehow we'll get through it in the honor of Jackie Robinson.
Why is everyone wearing 42?
Yeah, this is already one of our longer intros.
I apologize for interrupting you, but I didn't want to forget. So we will more naturally work that into future episodes, but we hadn't done it. So I wanted to make sure we got it.
Yeah. Well, we forgot the first couple of shows of this season. We didn't do any jersey numbers going. I like that little, whatever, trivial factoids.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got 2 weeks in the books. We didn't record last week due to some scheduling conflicts and personal shit. So I think it's actually better that we are now 2 weeks into the season. Otherwise we'd be overreacting to just a handful of games. Instead, we'll overreact to 12, 13 games. So I think this works out well going 2 weeks into the season, getting some still small, but not minutely small sample sizes to talk about. We've got 4 series at least. So we'll be going through the Houston series, which looked pretty decent. The home opening series against your Giants, where you must be conflicted. You were actually at one of those games, so
I sure was.
We'll have to do a Pete at the Park segment when we get to that. Then we've got the Pittsburgh series, which is rather eventful, and of course Minnesota. It just wrapped up. So
a lot of violence towards those last 2 series.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. There's body parts everywhere. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the news?
Well, we used to kick off all of 2022 with a segment called La Russa Palooza, but now and then we later on do a segment called Wrath of Hahn, but Wrath of Hahn is now moved up to the number 1 slot this week because 2 weeks into the season, a slew of key players have been sidelined for the White Sox.
The Wrath of Hahn curse, as we've coined it, seems to follow everything that Rick Hahn touches. Just turns to shit somehow. The amount of injuries you've had is unreal. I just saw this stat. Let me make sure I get this right. Since the beginning of 2020, you've played approximately 400 games.
Yeah, okay.
Yoan Moncada has missed 22% of those games.
Oh yeah, I've seen this stat before.
Tim
yeah.
Anderson has missed 33% of those games.
Which is crazy because would you now? I wouldn't ever think that. Like I would say, oh, Anderson's missed like 13% of the games, but
yeah, I never think of it as percentage. I just kind of broke down the numbers, so I thought that was an interesting way to put it. 33 fucking percent, but that's not even as bad as it gets. Luis Robert Jr. has missed 41%, I believe, of those games. And of course, the champion of injury, Eloy Jimenez, has missed almost 50% of the games since the beginning of 2020.
Wow.
That's I think you've played 397 games and he's missed 196 of them.
So everyone listening out there, if you want to know the White Sox problems,
that's
at
one
least
of them.
Offensively,
yeah.
When the offense is going bad, like it has recently, there you go. And all those guys have been out of the lineup for days now. So
fortunately, it sounds like there's a possibility Eloy and Yohan could be back. I would put much more money on Yohan being back in the lineup this weekend than Eloy, because you never know with Eloy. But
yeah, the thing about Eloy is, like you said, Smitty coined it perfectly on Twitter. This is a late April Fool's joke, right? There was no indication at all.
I didn't think you liked that very much when I said that.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, but like, it's like he's not even playing the field. He's just running the fucking bases, and he pulls a hamstring. Like, does a dude just pound tequila or vodka or something?
He famously came to camp in the best shape of his life, as the cliche goes, but he did look like he lost like 20, 25 pounds, which I was joking about that in a previous episode, where I'd rather see players slim down than bulk up, like, because every time you see somebody get ripped in the offseason, they pull an oblique. So it seemed like Eloy was going in the right path, like losing some baby fat there and maybe leading towards a more healthy season, but that's already out the fucking window. Yeah, they said 2 to 3 weeks on the IL. He came out that day and said, well, I could have pinch hit today. It's like, well,
yeah, I mean,
what's happening here? Are you hurt or are you not hurt? So
you do have to wonder though too, like how much like are the White Sox just terrified when one of these guys gets injured?
Yeah,
about getting them back too quickly and then losing them for a longer period of time.
Yeah, especially with a hamstring, you don't know how that can especially if you come back too soon with that, what that could lead to eventually. So, and he's got the history of that. So maybe this is kind of like the NBA's famous load management. Maybe that's preemptive, that like if they already had a plan going into the season, like if he has anything, we're not going to do a minimum IL stint. He's going to go on a 2-3 weeks if we need to, just to make sure he's healthy by the end of the season. That's why I'm skeptical that he's actually going to come back this weekend, as has been rumored.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I think Yohan Moncada's only missed, is it 3 games now? He missed the Minnesota series, or did he miss the whole series? Yeah, he missed
them in the whole series. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could see him coming back with a back issue.
Yeah.
Tim Anderson, of course, with the bizarre collision at third base on a rundown that
on a terrible throw by Hanser Alberto.
Yeah. Is he the new Lurie Garcia? Like, just every White Sox fan takes out their wrath on poor Alonso.
Yeah, he is. They overreact. I mean, he's great when he hits he had a 3-run homer in the Minnesota win, but that was good. But
that is good.
He does anything wrong, it's blown out of proportion. So, well, but what fans fail to realize, though, again, I mean, what's Pedro Grifol supposed to do? He's forced to play bench players because 4 guys are not playing right now,
Yeah.
So
2 weeks into the season, he's missing half his roster.
So with those 3 guys out, and plus someone else we're going to talk about in a second, I mean, it's kind of like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? You got to play who's there. So,
yeah. Well, that leads us into one of my more favorite subjects or segments that we've done in recent years. Dumbass injury of the week. That's got to go to Joe Kelly. Of all things, injured his groin while running towards what we call a tickle fight, because that's essentially what Major League Baseball bench clearing brawls have become, as the collision at home plate between O'Neill Cruz and Seby Zavala. Somehow you're going to have to break this down for me, because I'm so confused about this incident, why it led to a bench clearing brawl eventually. But the idea that Joe Kelly could injure his groin just trotting in ceremonially from the bullpen to make his appearance with all the other bullpen.
Unfucking believable.
So, I mean, that is quintessential. I mean, it is definitely a combination of Wrath of Hahn and dumbass injury of the week, but I couldn't believe that when I saw that.
Yeah. When the exact phrase from running in from the bullpen for the fight in the Pittsburgh
quote unquote fight.
Yeah, right, exactly.
A lot of macho posturing. Actually, it feels like the bullpens are so reluctant to do that. They've got to run.
I feel like they feel obligated to do it.
They are obligated. It is definitely ceremonial. It is a rite of passage. You must do this. It's so absurd and silly, and most of the time that's why we call it a tickle fight. They just stand and jaw at each other and act tough, and nothing comes of it. This was more definitely verbal. I mean, I didn't see any punches thrown or anything. It was definitely physical, because it started out with a broken ankle of O'Neill Cruz, which is really unfortunate. I don't think really anyone's at fault for this. I think it was a confusing, weird baseball play. I think you could place blame all over the place. I don't think anyone is like terribly egregious in this, other than maybe O'Neill Cruz, who took the weirdest slide, a very awkward slide into home plate.
Yeah. But that's the only thing I would say. He slid into the baseline versus sliding out, which is what they're supposed to be teaching now, to avoid the tag.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure he knew. I don't know what he was thinking. He slid really late, for one thing. He is an enormous human being.
And he had his hands up like that. So I think Seby took some exception to that too.
Yeah, Seby was very pissed off. That is why it became a bench clearing brawl, because of his reaction. At least in my opinion. He did not take kindly to how he was slid into. To that, I would say, you're a catcher, that shit's going to happen. I think he was also intimidated by the sheer size of O'Neill Cruz, which is an imposing figure coming at you, especially when he's coming at you awkwardly. Of course, Cruz injured himself and broke his ankle and is out for however long, which is really sad.
Did he hyperextend his knee too, or something?
I didn't hear about that. I wouldn't be surprised. It was all.
Yeah, I think he suffered 2 injuries on that.
It was a mess. Everything about it. Part of the issue was Moncada's throw from third. If you've seen that, I've seen it a bunch on Twitter. The camera angle that looks right behind home plate, straight up the third baseline, shows you exactly what happened. Moncada's throw took Zavala, who was standing well inside the baseline, as a target for Moncada. The throw actually took him right to the middle of the plate. So Zavala is coming back towards the plate right as Cruz is coming in. So there was somewhat of a path, I'm sure, and if he had slid with his hand, which he might be told not to do that, so he doesn't get his hand stepped on. I don't know, but I think Cruz is very confused. I think the throw contributed to it, and I think Savalas we'll talk about, was kind of a hard ass about everything. Just he was screaming at the guy as he was laying on the ground with a broken ankle. I think that's seeing how severe the pain that he was in. I think the Pirates took exception to that, and that's where the brouhaha ensued that ended up into essentially nothing other than a broken ankle and a pulled groin. But
yeah, I mean, Carlos Santana is the one who took exception.
Oh yeah.
Zavala turned around and was like, I think he said something like, "What the fuck?"
Because, yeah, he did.
Because
the slide was weird.
The slide was weird.
Yeah.
And if you watched in slow-mo, he almost got injured on the play too, because of the way
he could have definitely been injured. Yeah.
His leg got caught with O'Neal Cruz's leg.
Yeah.
And he went awkwardly, but I was shocked he didn't get injured too.
It could have been him being injured, not Cruz, 100%.
Yeah.
It just happened to be that's not how it worked out.
But I mean, I don't think anyone. The thing at the end of the day, there was nothing malicious by anyone in this, and it just escalated. I think Zavala was just like, dude, how many times have they gone over the fact you're supposed to slide for catcher's protection and all that crazy shit? But it's a play happening at full speed. Shit's gonna happen sometimes.
And it's a confounding rule. I think everyone's confused by that rule. I mean, can you block the plate? Can't you block the plate? When can you block the plate?
Once you have the ball, you can do whatever you want.
And he wasn't, and the only reason he was on the plate is because the throw took him there. So he has to catch the ball. I mean, Savalas didn't do anything wrong except for possibly overreact and start swearing at a guy with a broken ankle.
But he doesn't know that.
He didn't know that, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So the other interesting part of that, I think the second most pissed off person in the whole thing,
Michael Kopech.
Michael Kopech. Like, what was he so pissed? I mean, he's maybe protecting his catcher. He was more irate than almost anyone on the field. I was confused by that too. So maybe there's more shit going on than we'll ever know. But I didn't know if you had some insight on why Kopech was so.
Yeah, I mean, Kopech went crazy because of some words that were said directed towards him, and he lost his fucking shit according to that report.
Why were they yelling at him?
I don't know. Who knows?
He had nothing to do with that play at all.
And at the same time, who cares? Like from his standpoint, he needs to learn you can't get yourself fucking taken out of the fucking game.
Well, that was Stoney's commentary at the time. He's like, I mean, Kopech needs to calm down. He needs to stay in this game. So for him to, I thought that was good advice. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear it from the booth on the field, but I think everyone was kind of perplexed by his reaction. But Kopech is kind of he's a mercurial guy.
Yeah, he's got a hothead side to him. He reminds me his motion isn't as violent as Chris Sale's, but I think he's got a little bit of Chris Sale in him. So don't bring those jerseys out, boys, because you never know what'll happen.
Yeah, who knows? Well, I think unless there's anything else about that, should we just go ahead and start chronologically through the opening series?
Let's walk through overreactions. As Smitty said, if we had done this podcast, which probably would have been like right after the Houston series, I would have been fucking ecstatic.
2-2. You would have been 2-2 with a series on the road against the world champions. You look solid. There was nothing to really complain about in that series.
No, it was just a really 4 well-played ball games. Other than the bullpen. The bullpen was shaky. The Sox were within 1 run each in their 2 losses until the 6th inning when the bullpen came in and things imploded. I mean, so much to the point that Jose Ruiz has been shipped away, and in his first game, game with Arizona, he let up a 2-run homer in his first appearance there. So
I'm not sure if I ever heard of him until the World Baseball Classic, and then he was supposed to be the great-est.
Oh God, he was terrible last year for the White Sox.
Okay, that's probably what I don't remember, but
yeah, he was just another guy coming out of the bullpen that you had no choice but to use him. So.
You're reunited with Jose Abreu, your former captain or leader of the team.
Kind of.
After some controversial comments.
Yeah, he was having fun with the team.
Yeah, there was lots of pictures that everybody on the team loves him, obviously. So his comments, I think, were definitely towards the front office and maybe towards Tony La Russa in general when he was talking about the 2022 White Sox were not a family, quote unquote. So
familia.
So yeah, I think there's no one on the team that holds a grudge against him. The dude is a legend, should always be a legend in Chicago. He's taking his talents to Houston, where I think he's doing quite well, as should be expected. So I think it's certainly a win for him. I don't know. Maybe we'll revisit the Jose Abreu situation by the end of the year, see what happens with your 2023 White Sox, if they would have been better off with him or without. I think our consensus as a podcast is that they had to move on from Jose Abreu.
Yeah.
It was obvious, the logjam at first base with the emergence of Andrew Vaughn, who should be your first baseman. Too many DHs. And the age of Jose Abreu, it just made sense to move along. But time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Vaughn so far has played well. He's got 9 RBIs already in this young season, so probably right around the same as Jose. So far it's in a too early to tell situation. Kind of neutral.
Vaughn's 10 years younger at least.
Yeah,
believe,
right.
so.
I mean, you've got the futures now in that case. You know, it was just time. So, but it was a fun series. Feeling good. Coming home to play the Giants, and it's like, all right, the Giants are okay. Little did I know that the Giants are a powerhouse when playing at the rate.
Yeah, well, it certainly showed that an opening night, your home opener, with a 12-3 loss against also your San Francisco Giants. But I do have an asshole question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Would that be the worst opening day home opener for your Chicago White Sox?
No. The worst was when I went to the opening day of that park and they lost like 16-1 to the Tigers.
Actually, I forgot you were actually there. I'm sure you told me this story before, but yes, I wrote this all down. I heard about this and I had to write it down for this asshole question. And you have answered correctly because it was 16-0.
Oh, nothing.
By my Detroit Tigers on the first ever game at New Comiskey Park, now guaranteed rate field.
I have a theory as to why the Sox lost by so much, and the baseball
in 1991.
Yes, and the baseball gods shined upon the Tigers. Pre-game, the field was blessed by a Catholic priest, a Jewish rabbi, and I don't know.
This is like the end of.
It's like a joke.
Like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Or it's like a joke.
Okay.
A rabbi, a Catholic priest.
Some guy with like some medallion burned into his hand.
Yeah.
And the face is all melted off.
I forget. There was one other religion there, like that was represented, and they all blessed the field. And I said the Sox lost that day 16-0 because they had no one on their side. They had no one on their side.
Pissed off all the guys.
Yeah, they picked them all. What? God's like, hey,
F you.
What? These guys killed my son. You letting them bless the field? What the fuck?
Well, we're getting into a whole another podcast realm.
My Pete's joke, working out his material during the podcast.
Religion. We refuse to talk about politics. We might as well talk about religion.
And by the way, that game too, now remember, this is the original field. So there's those 7 to 10 extra rows in the upper deck at this point.
The most terrifying seats in the world on the edge of the planet.
From the top.
Oh, I saw a concert I saw the Rolling Stones from up there. That was the most terrifying day of my life.
I was at that show, but I was on the field for that. But, I mean,
whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, haha.
Oh, an aristocrat.
Fuck you. Haha. So that is for me as opening days. That was
how long did you actually stay for that 16-0 drubbing?
Worse, it was an outing with my college. So we had to stay.
I was gonna say you were probably 20, 22 at the time. 21?
Yeah, 21.
Okay. So you're of drinking age even.
Yeah. Oh no. 91. I was 19.
Oh, okay. I got that wrong.
19. But I had to wait until the end of the fucking game. That's when the bus was leaving.
Oh shit.
We had to stay for the whole fucking game. And it wasn't warm either.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was that?
It wasn't warm, and I
could
touch the clouds basically. It's like you're sitting there like, is that a mist rolling in? It's like, no, that's just a cloud. That's just going by your head.
Good Lord. Well, I got much more than I bargained for with this asshole question because you got it 100% right. The 2023 home opener was not the worst ever. You were there to witness it in 1991. So,
Oh God.
the irony that was the first day of the new Comiskey Park is too good. Plus, I just love that it was my Detroit Tigers that will always burn into your memory.
Oh, it's so great. Yes.
Well, you did get to go to a game in this series this week.
Right. I got to go to the worst drubbing of the series if you're going, because the Giants put up 16, including, I think it was 4 home runs in 1 inning.
Yikes.
But
your Giants, Jesus.
I know, but and then they went home to play Kansas City and lost 2 out of 3. So baseball.
Yeah, baseball. What can you do?
But I will say overall, the ballpark experience was fantabulous. I had
new food, new drinks.
I didn't have any. What did I have? I had some rib tips that were good. Actually, Margot wanted rib tips, but you couldn't finish them, so I had some of hers.
Nice.
What did I don't even remember what. Oh, I had so let me back up. So I was explaining to Smitty that
that's me.
You know, there's a little bit of an angle to get White Sox tickets this year, and now that they are currently under 500, that angle will continue. But I was able to, on StubHub, probably from a season ticket holder, nab $3 tickets to the Stadium Club, $3 each, and $22 tickets, 16 rows behind the White Sox dugout.
Nice.
Those tickets.
This is the Thursday day game.
Thursday, 1:10. So that's another thing. It's a day game, so that plays into it.
It's a little easier.
In a day game in April too.
Yeah. What was your weather like?
52. We were in the sun. We were all like in short sleeves during the game because it was so warm with the sun just beating down on you.
Yeah.
It felt like 70, like some degrees out there. It was gorgeous. It was, we stayed till like the 8th just because it was so nice out. The weather was perfect. But because we had the Stadium Club tickets, you can go through a special entrance and avoid the crowds. So we used that and went straight up there and like had lunch up there, which I have to say, folks, it's better to eat the food in the ballpark.
Oh no.
Robin got some steak tacos that looked like they were going to be good. They were just kind of like, okay. I had I got a double cheeseburger that was actually pretty freaking good. It was like a smash burger. I have to say that was pretty good.
I mean, when you can just get a Polish with right in the concourse.
Right, exactly.
Christ.
You can't get any of that stuff up there.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 levels. So there's like we went upstairs where you can just grab a seat against the window and have a great view of the park. We weren't going to stay up there for the game, but it was just kind of cool sitting there and watching San Francisco finish up batting practice.
Nice.
But you know, overall, I'd probably buy the tickets again real cheap if I could, if the weather was going to be bad, you know, just to have that as an out. But with good weather, I would not recommend like going up to the Stadium Club because your options are eating this like pretty average bar food compared to what's available in the park, or going under the first level, which is like a white tablecloth restaurant and is like $35 a person for like a buffet.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What? Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I don't go to the ballpark for prime ribs, so
no.
So anyway, we left there pretty quickly. We ate and left, and then we got down to our seats and we're like, holy shit, it's so freaking warm out here. So yeah.
Unfortunately,
the Sox just, you know, Kopech was basically throwing batting practice.
Well, I think it's pretty clear now he was tipping his pitches somehow. I think
Yeah, based on his follow-up performance.
Based on his follow-up performance, that was probably suggested after the game. I think Grifol may have mentioned it, that they thought they might have, that he might be tipping his pitches. And then John Boy, famous John Boy Media, did a whole video breakdown showing exactly how he was tipping his pitches. So I think the proof is just like you said. I mean, his outing in Pittsburgh, second outing, showed that that was definitely an anomaly for whatever reason, but most likely tipping the pitches.
Yeah, you wonder about that too, because this isn't the first time this has happened with him.
You got to wonder why that keeps happening then. I mean, what's going on there?
You wonder what bad habit you fall back into, right? Wasn't it? It was something about the position of his leg, right? I think that's what John Boy had broke
I think
down.
so. Something like that.
Yeah, it was. They knew when he was fucking.
They knew something.
Fastball. Jeez.
Yeah.
Or was it or they kept hitting his changeup or something like that. There was a particular pitch. I wish I could remember now since we're doing a fucking podcast. But they knew, and they just.
Well, you were there. You probably didn't know what pitches he was throwing at the time. So
no,
you get a pass.
They were fucking meatballs.
Yeah.
But it was kind of weird because I'm like, oh, I kept saying to Charlie, I'm like, well, at least it's to the Giants.
Final score, what was it?
16-5?
Yikes.
I blocked it out of my memory. I think they were still scoring as we were leaving.
I was gonna say, did you guys stick around for the whole thing, or are you able to
about the 8th inning we left?
That's pretty good for having two kids there in a terrible game. They wanted to stick around that long.
Yeah, they like the ballpark. Margot, she likes snacks and food. So, and Charlie loves baseball. So
yeah, that's cool.
It was, Margot's usually the first one to tap out, but I have to say, guys, people with kids, you should be thanking MLB for the pitch clock. This has now allowed a game, even with all those runs, to move at a much faster pace. And I think that was part of the thing with Margot. It was like, oh, it's the 8th inning already? Like, whatever. Like, it's just going quicker.
Christ, that's happening to me in every game I'm watching. Like, holy shit, it's already the 8th inning. This is crazy.
Oh, the Minnesota game yesterday. Like, I kept peeking in on my computer, and it was just like, holy shit, they're already in the 8th.
Yeah,
like an hour and a half in. But it was a terrible home series. It gave me bad flashbacks to last year where they had a losing record at home and a winning record on the road. No, they have a losing record in both places right now. But
yes.
Yeah, so then the Sox headed out to Pittsburgh, which we really covered. We've covered the main story already. One of the funniest things, the one thing we didn't talk about when we talked about Zavala was his post-game interview about the situation. And I got to give Smitty kudos because I laughed out loud. After I posted it and Smitty saw it, he literally posted Drago, if he dies, he dies.
That was
like Zavala was just so hard ass about it. Like,
you called him a badass. I'm not sure he was a badass. He was definitely a hard ass about it. He was not sympathetic to the injury. He's like, it's a baseball play. He doesn't have to be, but I just thought it was a little bit over the top, kind of wrestling. Yeah, very Ivan Drago. If he dies, he dies.
He's out for the year. Good for him.
I didn't think he needed to be quite that heartless. I don't think he did anything wrong in that play at all, other than his overreaction afterwards. And then his being such a hard ass afterwards. I guess that gives you some insight into who Seby Zavala is. So
yeah,
that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. So the Sox, who I should point out as we get to Pittsburgh and play the first game in Pittsburgh, the Sox at this point are like leading the league in extra base hits and hits overall, and everything's looking good on the offensive standpoint, but bad on the starting pitching standpoint. Then
you had the worst ERA in baseball.
Yeah,
team ERA. I think
7.70 it was.
Yikes! I think you're still number 28 overall in team ERA.
There's some work to do.
Well, and you've been doing that work recently, so that's going to come down. But
so what happened though is the injuries we talked about with Wrath of Hahn started to pile up for the offense. So what happens is we met and they won a game in Pittsburgh, and then the offense pretty much, became that sporadic offense of 2022, which a lot of that could be said due to injury.
Yeah.
And they left Pittsburgh losing that series, including like a game where I think the last game of the series, they had like 3 total hits, maybe 4. Pathetic. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe Pittsburgh's good now. I mean,
I think they're better than, they're better, but
they look good. I mean, I'm not sure that you guys were the reason they look good. I think they just might be a good team. I think that's severely diminished by losing their star O'Neal Cruz. But it's funny because I had the kind of the opposite reaction after the Houston series, after my Tigers actually went to Houston right after the White Sox and won 2 games there too. I'm like, maybe Houston's not very good and maybe Pittsburgh is good. So maybe everything's topsy-turvy now. Who knows? But
back to Houston for a second. I remember I'm going to go to our Nostra dumbass picks of 2022.
None of them are looking good already.
And I
for 2023.
Yeah. But for 2022,
okay.
I picked the Angels to win the division. And at one point in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season, the Houston Astros were 7 games out of first place for the Angels.
That's why I love doing podcasts 2 weeks into the season.
Right. And then they went on some crazy 9 or 11 game winning streak, and everything changed from that point on, and they ran away the division.
And won the World Series. So.
Yeah, and won the World Series. So I think, again, they got a couple injuries there too, Altuve for one, but they don't always start out the fastest, but they close just fine. So I think it was good for the Sox and Tigers to play them early, get a series out of the way early, but
it's the only 2 games the Tigers have won so far. So it was very good.
Which is the funny part of that whole thing, but so I do think Pittsburgh is better, but I don't know that I don't know if the Sox are, I don't know. They actually, in that series, they were only missing Eloy. So I guess they should have performed better. Eloy and Mancada. They should have performed better, but
well, what do you think then about the Minnesota Twins?
I think the Twins are just like they were last year. They came out, they were in first place in April, and then they slowly faded to obscurity. I think, Pablo Lopez is the real deal.
He's on my fantasy team.
The same night that he, actually both pitchers, the Sox actually recorded more strikeouts than Minnesota in that was that Wednesday night game? Oh no, a Tuesday night game. But the funny thing is, did you know they traded was it a Rosarena? Or no, not a
Luis Arraez.
Yeah,
we forgot that name in the previous couple podcasts. It's Luis Arraez, the AL batting champ from last year, traded to Miami for Pablo Lopez.
So as Pablo Lopez had what was it, 7 2/3 of innings pitched, somewhat dominating outing except for the first inning. Arraez hit for the cycle that night in Florida.
That's a win-win right there.
That's a win-win. Exactly. That is a win-win. He did really beat down on the White Sox. He always got a lot of hits, so that's good to see. But if Pablo
Lopez is going to dominate you instead,
yeah, right. So it's the only chance with Lopez is you could miss him in the rotation.
There's always hope.
There's a spin there, Smitty. There's always hope. But
the much maligned Carlos Correa, or at least much talked about, or some could say obsessed over Carlos Correa on this podcast,
did not play.
Wasn't even in the series. So we kind of predicted that, and that's why neither of us picked Minnesota to do much in the division, or certainly not in the playoffs, in our Nostra dumbass prediction show a couple weeks ago. He didn't even play. Eventually, Byron Buxton, the oft injured, brilliant player, but he's just too hurt. That's another reason why we don't typically think that Minnesota is going to do a whole lot. he eventually had one of the more bizarre collisions we've ever seen.
Holy shit.
It kind of reminds me, you couple that with the O'Neal Cruz injury, the Byron Buxton collision, and then Kyle Farmer taking a face ball from Lucas Giolito, where he broke out all his fucking teeth. He didn't have a broken jaw, they said, but
yeah.
Do you remember the band? This is kind of an obscure alt rock band from the early 2000s, I think. And They Will Know Us by our Trail of Dead.
Yeah, I actually have a bunch of their stuff. I love them. I've seen them live a few times.
That's what I think is the 2023 White Sox. I mean, it's kind of a continuation of Wrath of Hahn that is expanding to other teams, as we're seeing broken body parts strewn across the Midwest, with O'Neal Cruz broken ankle sitting on home plate in Pittsburgh. We've got Kyle Farmer's broken teeth on home plate in Minneapolis. I think the way that collision looked with Byron Buxton, I thought his entire spinal column was going to be laying on second base there. That collision was so strange. I don't know what Buxton was thinking. I forget who your second baseman was at the time.
Lennon Sosa.
Sosa, yeah. He didn't do anything wrong. He was going to field a ground ball, and somehow Buxton didn't see him, and it was one of the worst collisions I've seen. He fell like kind of on his neck, like he flipped over.
It looked like a football tackle, someone being taken out. It was like he ran into an out, literally.
Yeah, I mean, he's automatically out for running into the fielder. So is that how he's getting hurt all the time? Just like not paying attention, or what? I don't watch enough Twins games to understand what's going on with him, but that was just insane. So I don't know if that's Wrath of Hahn or what that is, like kind of smearing off on all the teams they're playing. But there is an inordinate amount of injuries happening to the White Sox and around the White Sox, including the injury to TA.
Yeah, 3 in that series.
I mean, and that was another just completely bizarre situation. And like you said, it was a bad throw, essentially, or a bad rundown that led to a collision. When I first saw it, I didn't think it looked that bad, other than TA's reaction. You could tell he was in pain. I was just surprised. I was surprised it was as severe as it was. But his prognosis, I forget. Did we talk about that, or do you know?
2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4.
And we hope it's only 2.
Yeah, you just never know.
38 games over 500 with them.
Yeah.
5 games under 500 without him.
Yeah.
Well, probably more now. But
yeah, I mean, he's clearly the engine of the White Sox. It's horrible to see him following last year with an early injury already this year. Hopefully it's nothing, but
yeah, I think another, part of the reason of missing him too is having him and Luis Robert as a 1-2 punch to open up a game.
It's pretty good.
Robert was tied for the home run lead going into today, but I think Mountcastle had another home run today. So
Rainier Wolfcastle.
Yeah. So, but Robert is off to a tremendous start, both offensively and defensively. This is everything he's been billed as that we've been hearing about. Yeah. And even when it's weird this year, and you got to wonder sometimes, is it just the mentality of the team? But he had that awkward play in Minnesota where he kind of slid in the outfield and didn't make the play. But then you saw all the practice. This is one of my prouder moments as a White Sox fan this year. Colas, who is such a decent right fielder, goes over, gets the ball, hits Romy Gonzalez perfectly, and then they throw him out at third. It was textbook baseball, which I've not seen since Ozzie Guillen.
Defense. Weird.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was weird. But then Pedro Grifol obviously didn't get the notes that Gavin Sheets isn't that good of a right fielder. And during the day game yesterday, he started to misplay a ball in right field and then just decide to fall over for a triple.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's sad. At least, well, I don't know. thought you had the right field situation to take care of, and you might, but yeah, what do you do with Gavin Sheets? I guess is another question. Like,
Well,
where do you put him?
I think now they need to consider like what they can get for him after what I may be overreacting. This may be overreaction in the early part of the season, but he committed 2 errors at first base the day they put him at first base. And then they put him in right field. And while he didn't get an error for that, that's an error as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you've got too many DHs already. So
yeah,
I feel like you and I talked about trading him last year.
we did.
So somehow it didn't get done. It seems like
I think they like him of a left-handed bat situation, but he's not even hitting that good right now either. So
yeah. Well, was that going to be? You mentioned you sent me a text message. We didn't talk about this pre-show, but you had the idea for potentially a new segment on this show.
Yeah,
we need to work on the name of this, but the Grifol gripes or Grifol grievances or
Grifol
gaffes.
Yeah, Grifol gaffes. And
Don't
I would
vote for Pedro. I don't know what we're going to call this.
But
maybe we'll put it on a poll. Like, what should we name our Grifol gripes segment?
But this is what I'll say. You have 3 key guys out, but one of them's not your starting right fielder. It's early in the season. You put the best defensive team you can put out there right now, since you know your offense is going to be lacking, to try to prevent as many runs as possible. And to me,
run prevention is pretty key.
To me, that game is, I mean, I'm not saying they would have won yesterday, but Gavin Sheets in right field created a liability that they could not overcome. And last year, it was kind of a necessity because they didn't have anyone to play right field.
Right.
But, you know,
Vaughn did his best.
He mostly was in left because of Eloy
being gone,
but like there's no reason to put him out there. There really wasn't. And
they wanted his bat in the lineup, and so it's a conundrum. Is that Grifol or is that roster construction by Rick Hahn?
Well, I think it's a little, it's a little of both, but I don't think I think there's a way, if you wanted his bat in the lineup, you just have him at DH.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of not having Eloy around right now, at least you've opened up that DH slot. So I don't know. I mean, it's a weird blessing in disguise that doesn't seem to be exploited. But yeah, suddenly I didn't think of Sheets as a horrible liability in the field. Now he seems to be a problem everywhere.
Yeah,
and just defense in general seems to be a White Sox conundrum. So
yeah, I mean, when they had only committed like 1 error when everyone was healthy, and now since then they had like 4 or 5 over the last that amount of games. So
people playing out of position. I mean, it's kind of a mess.
Yeah,
kind of reminds me of last year somehow. I mean,
I know, that's what I text you. I mean, I feel like this is Groundhog Day on the podcast, opening up with the Wrath of Hahn, and how I mean, Tim's injury was freakish.
That was freakish, but
Mancata, I don't know.
He's had it's his back. I've heard that he had issues with his back all spring, and this is just now kind of rearing its ugly head, even though he got off to an incredible start.
Yeah.
And he's, presumably when he comes back, he's going to be, he had like a 900 OPS, looking like the MVP as I predicted he would be in 2023. Until this sidelined him for at least 3 games. Hopefully he's back this weekend. But
yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of complaints about Grifol. I even though the Sox,
well, it's early.
Yeah, true, but that one was like sort of like glaring to me in that you have, he talked about more consistent lineups this year, and obviously when everyone was healthy, the lineup was quite consistent. The first series and a half, but like as you still have Andrew Benintendi, Lewis Robert, and Oscar Colas.
Yeah.
Leave the starting outfield out there. Let Colas, they used him. That was a great move for Grifol. He left him in a game in a high leverage situation because it was early in the season to see if he could produce in a lefty on lefty matchup, and he got a base hit and drove in like a runner, at least one run. And it's like,
he's going to be good. But you can't have a rookie playing every day. I mean, you've got to protect him a little bit. You've got to have other options, other viable options. And suddenly Sheets is proving not to be one of those. So I think that's more on roster construction than Grifol. He's got his hands tied with, first of all, even roster construction necessarily. When you've suffered this many injuries this early in the season, it's kind of puts everybody in a bind.
True.
There's only ways to have so much organizational depth to be able to absorb all this.
I just don't think you have to worry that much about resting guys this early in the season, to be honest with you. But whatever.
You always got to be thinking ahead, Pete.
Yeah, well, I'd like to be. I'd like to have a winning record, or at least be ground level. But
wow, we're ending this on a sour note.
Well, it doesn't get any better, folks, because the slugging Baltimore Orioles come into town this week.
Ooh, Rainier Wolfcastle.
Yes, but
Ryan Mountcastle, is that his name?
Yes. The bad news, he had
9 RBI in one game.
I know, he's on my fantasy team.
Wow.
And I'm still in third place. But mostly because stats didn't get counted because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
All right.
That's a joke. That was a joke.
If you want to catch our 2023 fantasy special, go check out the previous episode. I uploaded this as a bonus for both In the Hole as well as Sox Type Thing. So if you want to hear us do a recounting of our live baseball draft, you can do that, because
we
had a major snafu that we won't bore you all with. But yeah, there's much controversy. The whole league is thrown into turmoil. I am the commissioner trying to keep the masses in line, trying to keep the rioting down. There are major issues, mainly caused by one Pete Veneri over there. But
I lost 2 quality starts to open up the season. So
did I, motherfucker. So live with it. But anyway, you guys have the Orioles coming up. I think you have a total of 7 games coming up in the near future with the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long they hold on to that. I mean, who have they played?
They played Detroit, they played Oakland, they played Washington, the 3 worst teams in the Major League Baseball. So that is questionable. They played other teams, but you and I will actually be witnessing one of those games in 2 weeks.
That is correct. Where we will be probably sitting directly behind home plate with free food for only $12 after I find those tickets.
Yeah. Friday, April 28th, I believe. I will be taking the train into Chicago. We're going to catch the Friday night game. We are not buying tickets until we walk up, or maybe we'll use an app to get something off StubHub or whatever. But I have a feeling we're going to be able to get tickets. At least decent seats anywhere we'd like. Maybe not. We'll see. I will get a Polish with onions, of course.
You know what else it is that night?
Yeah. Is there a giveaway? Is there something going on that night?
Oh, that's the 28th. The 28th is White Sox Arbor Day celebration.
Yeah, that's what it was. Arbor Day. We're celebrating Arbor Day. So be sure to wear your green ribbons, or how do you celebrate Arbor Day?
I don't know. But if you were to wait and come in on Saturday instead, they are giving away a hockey jersey.
The hockey jersey. Yeah. It's like
it's so much better than last year's.
Is it like the 83 kind of?
Yeah, the 83 logo. It's a jersey.
That I would never wear that, of course, as I am not a White Sox fan, but that is pretty damn cool. So I purposely came in on Friday so that you couldn't get one on Saturday.
I thought you'd rip it up in front of my face.
I'll bring the scissors. I'll go all Chris Sale on it.
You walk up to guest services. Do you have a pair of scissors I could borrow?
Just with like a blank look in my eye, just cut it to pieces in front of them. Oh my God.
Yeah, let's talk about the White Sox in April. And
Yeah.
April, and with the amount of people out right now, this is why it'd be good for them to get healthy. It's a beast now.
It's a gauntlet. Yes.
Orioles, then the Phillies come in.
Oh,
Then a day off. Then they go to the Rays and the Blue Jays and come back
Jesus.
home to the Rays.
Yeah, you need to get healthy very quickly. I mean, Eloy and Moncada coming back this weekend is paramount. Of course, everyone staying healthy that is there is paramount. Doesn't sound like you're going to have Tim for a little bit at least. Maybe he'll be in by the end of the month.
Yeah.
In best case scenario. But boy, yeah, you could get buried pretty quick.
Yeah, the good news is we could catch up in May because we play the Twins, the Reds, the Royals, the Guardians, the Royals again, the Guardians again, the Tigers. So
you're writing off the whole division.
Yeah, I am. Especially that Tiger series, the 25th through the 28th. That's 4 wins right there.
I'm wearing my Tigers hat. I've brought up the Tigers a couple times. I'm reluctantly did so, as I'm going to reluctantly have to podcast about them when we do our next episode of In the Hole this weekend. I think, by the way, I haven't run this by you, but we did a new segment last year called Power Rankings, and I think we just ranked random stuff. It wasn't anything, not necessarily the top 5 teams in the league. This year, at least to start out with, I think our power rankings have to be the worst 5 teams in the league. As we are Major League A-holes, we might as well take it in a different direction.
I like it.
And my Tigers would be the number 1 worst team in baseball. So, all right, I'm spoiling. Yeah, sorry. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be ranking them number 1 worst team in baseball. So look forward to that when we eventually release In the Hole episode. I think it's 120, maybe. I don't know. I got to look that up, but that'll be coming this weekend. Unless you had anything else for this episode of Sox Type Thing.
No, we actually got everything in. I managed to somehow weave all my thoughts in a somewhat coherent manner into
I'm proud of you.
Each of the segments.
I like it. Yeah. We're off to a good start. It's only our couple 3 podcasts into the season, so
couple 2, 3 there, guys. Hey there. I get a Polish wit and then get myself an old style, and it's fucking delicious.
It's our first regular season show of the year. I think we're going to have no trouble doing this once a week from here on out. And I think we're going to have no trouble finding something to talk about every week with your most entertaining team in the world, the Chicago White Sox.
You know what the intro music's going to have to be? You're going to have to pull up, if this continues with injuries and whatnot, you're going to have to, it's going to have to be that song Misery from Soul Asylum from Grave Dancers Union. That's going to be the intro music to this podcast now.
All right. You're taking over creative control. I like it. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'll look that up.
I mean, I'm already getting that the darkness is on the edge of starting to creep in like last season. So
the darkness. Goodness.
It's starting to consume me.
We're 2 weeks in. Oh shit. Well, this was fun. Maybe this will be cathartic for you and I, or at least you. This is always fun for me, no matter what. Maybe it's cathartic for our listeners. Maybe we can find the humor in all of this. Maybe the White Sox will turn it all around. Maybe next week we'll be talking about a whole different scenarios. Who knows?
Maybe you
never fucking know with those Chicago White Sox.
You never know with fucking baseball this year so far. It's been one of the most unpredictable starts of the season ever.
That's why you and I have had a blog and now a podcast for a total of about 12 years, and we're dorks for this. So baseball rocks no matter what. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. You can find this podcast anywhere you'd like to find a podcast. We're on social media. Pete's over there on Twitter, especially at Sox Type Thing. I am at Major League A-holes. You can find us on the web at Major League A-holes and SoxTypeThing.com. And you can find us on YouTube. So with that, I think you can declare
this podcast is over. Peace.
Peace.
Word Hole Media.